Lads, do you enjoy getting traumatized on a weekly basis? Well, neither does my co-host Neil.
People call me a victim more than a co-host.
Anyway, welcome to the Mortal Musings podcast. I'm your host, Megan. Each week, we dive into some truly dark and disturbing cases. Do you ever find yourself listening to these horrific tales and saying to yourself,
Huh? No. Huh? What the actual Why? Why did he do that? Solved it, mate. There's no need for that. They're just acting the
Our episodes include cases of serial killers, the story of a socialite that was held captive for 25 years, prison riots, wrongful executions, and scandals in the death industry. At the end of each episode, we throw in a tale of oddity. Anything from medical mishaps to the real-life Weekend at Bernie's or Mike the Headless Chicken. New episodes every Wednesday. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
And remember, here at the Mortal Musings podcast, we like to take the cases seriously, but not ourselves.
Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and you know I brought Andy with me because we talking some crazy neighbors today.
You know, one man's trash, Michael, is another man's treasure, and I am your treasure, man. I'm here.
Well, thank you for being a treasure of the show, Andy.
I am.
That's right. No other show would have you, but we'll have you here.
Listen, you found me where you found me, okay?
That's right. I'm glad we're neighbors today.
Yes.
But guys, before we get started, I must remind you that you can catch these free episodes early and ad-free on Patreon. Of course, then they won't be free, but you won't have all the ads.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
And you get them early, and lots of other stuff. As well as our other shows, Strange and Unexplained. You can catch that on the free platform, but early and ad-free on Patreon. And we've just added a new show to True Crime Guys Network. Guys, join me in welcoming Cryptic Soup to TCG Productions. Cryptic Soup, hosted by Thina and Kylie. New episodes come out every single Wednesday, so we're very glad to have them on the team, helping us out with our, around the office here at TCG.
Yeah.
As well as providing quality content to you lovely listeners every single week.
I feel like you should have had like some talk show coming out music when you were like,
Right.
like a welcome Cryptic Soup with Thina and Kylie. Just some Jay Leno music.
Thina, thanks for being here today. How you been? But guys, you can give them a follow on social media at Cryptic Soup Pod. It is linked right below the description of this episode. And make sure you give us a follow too at True Crime Guys. I mean, don't leave us out. I mean,
No.
geez.
Be
Golly
social
geez,
on the
you're
medias.
here. Exactly. You are here after all. Speaking of the social medias, YouTube. Is YouTube social media? Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much. Comment section. But go on YouTube and subscribe to the TCG YouTube channel, where you can see new episodes of Strange and Unexplained, our other podcast, in video form. Right, Andy?
In video form with GIFs and edits and pictures and everything.
Oh, man. So much work goes into that bad boy. But we appreciate it, guys. We also share reels on our Instagram and Facebook for you as well, so you can stay updated on the cases that we're covering. But today, man, we have a doozy. I have a confession to make. I kind of like these neighbor cases. I don't want to say but they're so interesting to me.
They're very relatable.
Because they are so relatable. They are. They're the most, I think because they're cases that truly scare me, you know?
Yeah, very
because
much so.
it really could happen to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely could. One moment you're living in this amazing neighborhood, it's peaceful, you get along with your neighbors, and then one little event happens. And then people do, Andy, they start to take little slights a little too personally, right? And then it just escalates and escalates.
One little event can then snowball slowly over years into a catastrophic event.
Absolutely. Like today. The neighborhood of New Brighton in Ramsey County, Minnesota is typically a safe and quiet one, except for the evening of May 5th, 2014, when gunshots rang out on Knollwood Drive. Now, what had begun as just a minor disagreement would ultimately end with murder. No joke. It was 8:30 in the evening on May 5th, 2014. New Brighton, Minnesota. 48-year-old Jennifer Damereau Clevin, who currently had a gunshot wound to her abdomen, was dialing 911, not only for herself, but also for her partner, Todd Stevens, who had also been shot. Todd was on the ground outside of their house and was not moving when the call was made.
where's your emergency?
Hurry, the neighbor just shot both of us. Hurry!
You need an ambulance?
I've been shot, yes! I think he killed Todd! Hurry!
Is the other person, is he awake?
I can't go out there. He might shoot me again. He's laying at the front of the house.
He's laying down outside?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where are you hit?
My God, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm bleeding. I'm worried about Todd. I think he killed him.
All right, well, I need to worry about you, okay? Find a clean, dry cloth or towel and put pressure on wherever you're bleeding, okay?
I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
Help is coming. Where is the person who did this? Did he run? Did he leave?
The street.
Jennifer, listen, I need to know the name of the person that did this.
Neil Zumberg.
Now, this Neil Zumberg had threatened her and Todd in the past. In fact, Jennifer obtained a restraining order against the 57-year-old just a year earlier. Jennifer, obviously, was also outraged with the New Brighton Police Department. You know, she was like, I told you guys, he was going to kill us.
You can hear
right?
the absolute rage in her voice, too.
Absolutely. So while Jennifer was rushed to the hospital, responders did everything they could for Todd Stevens. But less than 10 minutes later, the paramedics pronounced him dead. Todd had been hit with 3 of the 4 shots fired, all of which he was hit in the torso area. The damage was beyond medical intervention, and the 46-year-old father was dead, while the shooter, Neil Zumberg, was still cradling his shotgun, watching from his house across the street.
Yeah, that is 3 out of 4, 12-gauge buckshots?
Yes.
Like, that is, yeah. You're taking 3 of those to the torso with no protection?
No.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do from that.
About 150 feet away. Meanwhile, Neil was over at his house, not preparing for a standoff exactly, and we know this because he too placed a 911 call to the police, and it went a little something like this.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone shot outside my house.
Okay,
The police.
they need an ambulance?
I'm sure they do. I'm not going to shoot the police. They can go help the guy.
Are you the one that did the shooting?
I'm not going to say anything.
Is there anybody else in the house with you?
No, my wife has nothing to do with it. I told her to get the hell out of the house.
The guy that's outside.
Todd Stevens. Nobody listens to me around here. I told the guy that he's going to shoot us. He's got guns. And I just had enough. I'm not surrendering to the New Brighton police.
Okay, where is the gun that's in the house right now?
Well, what difference does that make?
Because I just want to make sure officers know so that it doesn't endanger you.
Well, you don't care about me.
I hear it. We don't want anything to happen to you.
I'm not going to shoot at the police. I'm not surrendering to the New Brighton police either. They're a bunch of kooks.
So who would you surrender to?
I don't know, Ramsey County Sheriff?
So you will surrender to a Ramsey County Sheriff?
Yeah.
So Neil's 911 call lasted 30 minutes in total. The dispatcher eventually handed off the call to a commander who continued to arrange a surrender to the Ramsey County Sheriffs as they agreed.
Yeah, that's a very different 911 call if you can't tell. The just the range of
Energy's
emotions
a little different,
of
huh?
The exact same event, 2 different 911 calls. It's wild
Neil
to see
seems
those.
very prepared to make this phone call.
Very matter of fact, too.
Yes, absolutely.
He's also, it's strange how, it's strange to go back and listen how, careful about what he says, too.
Right,
They asked me, are you the shooter? He's like, I'm not going to say that.
right.
He's like, someone was shot outside my house.
Now, after the shooting, Neil's wife, Paula, she dipped out. That's important. We'll come back to that later. Now, Chief Jacobson, he stated, there has been a dispute ongoing in this neighborhood between these 2 neighbors, and we have been here before. And that was about the understatement of the century because they had been there 44 times.
I mean, he was not lying. They have been there
That's true.
44 times, yes.
Oh, okay. And this was over the course of the last 9 years, right? So the crazy thing here is, how did this almost decade-long feud start, Andy?
I want to say over a parking dispute.
No,
Okay.
it was over deer.
Oh, dear. Really? I'm sorry, I couldn't resist the pun.
You couldn't. I knew you couldn't. I'm sure you're going to make plenty of deer puns. Don't worry. Puns are dear to me, Andy.
Oh.
You see, the quiet neighborhood of New Brighton, Minnesota is nestled in nature. complete with a nature trail and a creek where you can see wild turkeys and, of course, deer.
And such.
The 2500 block of Knollwood Drive was in a prime location for this such wildlife, and it had also been home to Jennifer Clevin and her long-term partner Todd Stevens for over 15 years. They even raised their kids there. But by the spring of 2014, their children had all left home, and the two of them had adjusted to a more peaceful, laid-back life. They'd go out back, have a few drinks, watch the deer eat out of their PVC deer feeder. Just chill, man. Living the dream, really.
Just some country relaxation right there.
That's right. What's the big deal?
Empty nesters just filling their nest with the wildlife in the woods.
You can't even blame them. But in 1997, Jennifer and Todd welcomed their new neighbors, Neil and Paula Zumberg. They had moved from northeast Minneapolis, seeking better schools for the kids. At first, the two families got along pretty well. The kids played together, they mingled at neighborhood barbecues, even shared rides to the state fair and other places over the years. However, the relationship started to deteriorate when Jacob Zumberg was told that he could no longer spend time with his friend Ryan over at the Clevin Stevens home. Apparently, Todd's drinking had become a concern for the Zumbergs, who thought drunk Todd often got a little bit inappropriate, Andy.
That's one way they could describe it, yeah.
Yeah, inappropriate. Zumberg also believed there to be domestic issues at his neighbor's home and didn't really want his kids around it. Now, Jennifer said the dispute with her neighbors had begun years earlier over deer. And in 2012, Neil had become so frustrated over their PVC deer feeder that Neil circulated a letter to the neighborhood where he called Todd Mr. Corn, and he outlined the risks posed by deer carrying in Lyme disease and spreading ticks into the neighborhood.
I mean, to be fair, that's a legit concern. You don't want Lyme disease in your neighborhood. You don't want these things in your neighborhood.
Right.
Granted, his research is a little flawed, but we'll get there.
But Mr. Corn is kind of funny, though.
I mean, it's
a little
corn.
We
got kids. All I could think about was that.
Right. Freaking Mr. Corn. But Neil was certain that his neighbor's selfish actions would destroy the community. And as luck would have it, months later, he blamed Todd and Jennifer when he and his dog had indeed contracted Lyme disease. Wouldn't you know it, Andy?
That's a little prophecy coming true right there, I guess.
Maybe he went out and got it.
Right?
I'm just kidding.
Went out and found a tick.
I'll show them. But aside from the fever and other symptoms, the worst part was that this meant that Neil would miss time at work, and he was forced to decrease hours before finally losing his job entirely. And of course, Neil placed all the blame for this squarely on Todd and Jennifer. And this only escalated things. Jennifer and Todd repeatedly accused Neil of blowing an air horn to scare the deer in their yard, and later that same year, dead and mutilated animals began appearing on their property.
I love how you also learn it's like he thinks that he blames the deer he blames the deer coming onto their property for bringing ticks when they literally talk about it's like he's out walking the trail but with his dog 3 times a day. I mean,
right? He's
maybe,
in the woods.
It's like maybe you got the tick out there.
Right. You and your dog.
Yeah.
Now, when Neil was confronted by Jennifer about the animals that he was leaving on their property, he threatened to kill her and reportedly stated that it would all be over soon. Now, Jennifer and Todd took action. First, they installed security cameras on their property, which largely targeted the Zumberg house. And there was another one that captured their driveway and another that was angled toward the other side of the street, approaching their home. And wouldn't you know it, Andy, after the cameras were installed, no more dead animals were left in their yard.
Strange that happens, right?
That is crazy. I guess that solved that problem. That's good.
Yeah, that's
animals
all you needed.
stopped dying here. I guess they don't want to be seen dying.
These animals stopped mutilating themselves at our fence.
That's so helpful. Secondly, Jennifer took out a restraining order against Neil. He was not permitted on their property whatsoever, which made it harder for Neil to find work because he now had a restraining order on file against him.
I guess that probably would. It's like being a felon, I guess.
It's like, but dude, you were leaving dead animals on their property.
It's like they were accusing you of doing that. It's like, dude, you were making threats to them.
That was probably like the easiest restraining order to get, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're telling your neighbors you're going to kill them, it's pretty easy for your neighbor to go to the police and go, yeah, he told me they're going to kill me, so restraining order?
But on April 29th, 2014, Jennifer called the New Brighton police and claimed that Neil and Paula's son Jacob, now in his early 20s, had threatened to kill her and Todd. Jacob had confronted Todd and Jennifer while out at a local restaurant, and he started screaming at them and was initially kicked out. But before he left, Jake went over and shoved Todd in the back and said, "I'm going to kill y'all and burn your house down."
These people are so blatantly loud with their threats.
Seriously.
Like,
And
this is like the part where I'm like, oh, this is so like just right trashy.
Yeah.
It's like just yelling in a bar, just I'm gonna
Right.
kill you and burn your house down.
It's
motherfucker."
right. It's always the worst case scenario. Like,
Right?
Jesus Christ. Like, we can't fight in the parking lot anymore?
Yeah, well, can't we
Jesus
just roadhouse
Christ.
this shit?
Seriously. Police told Jennifer to call them if she saw Jacob so that they could arrest him. And 1 week later on May 5th, that is exactly what she did. Jennifer saw Jacob at a bar and called the police. Jacob was arrested and charged with making terroristic threats and fifth-degree assault.
I did not understand that part of the entire case where the police are like, well, I guess if you see him again out in public, will you call and let us know and we'll come get him? It's like,
Yeah.
do you not know where he lives? Like, can you not just go get him?
They
like,
just want it to be easy. They just we don't.
I get that, but it's the same thing. It's like, police, come on. Like, everybody at this bar saw this happen. We
Yeah.
saw these witnesses.
But I mean, I guess they're thinking a threat is not a big enough offense to put police officers actively searching for him.
I guess, but at the same time, it's like, well,
Just a threat.
yeah, it's like, well, if you see him when you're out, just let us know, then we'll come get him. It's like, what if I don't see him before then? And that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't see him before he acts.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But news traveled very fast because Jacob's brother was also at the bar, and he immediately called their mom, Paula, to tell her about Jacob's arrest. And when Jennifer got home that evening, Paula was waiting across the street. Obviously angry about her son's arrest, she screamed at her, "You put my son in jail." Jennifer said, "Let's talk it over." And Todd heard the argument from inside and came outside to stand next to Jennifer. Jennifer screamed at him to go back inside, but Todd didn't.
Yeah, that's all on the cameras too. They don't have the
Yes, it
audio,
is.
but you literally see them start yelling at each
Right.
other, and then the two
So-
women just slowly walking towards each other.
Exactly.
Like
So
it's all out there.
This is Jennifer's version of the story, right? Now, the only thing really that Neil and Jennifer both agree on is the start, and it's the deer. Beyond that, everything is different. See, Neil explained to detectives that Todd and Jennifer were the problem. He said that Todd Stevens habitually urinated on his lawn and made threats from across the street and sometimes plowed snow onto the Zumberg property. Neil also recalled many occasions over several years when New Brighton police responded to domestic disputes at Todd and Jennifer's home. He claimed that Todd routinely locked Jennifer out of their house, and on one occasion, in 2008, police had to shoot Todd with a stun gun to subdue him. Now, most concerning, Neil said, was that Todd was known to carry a handgun. Specifically, Todd had a .38 that he wore on his side right beside his cell phone case. Here's a quote from Neil. He says, "Like every weekend, these guys are getting drunk, and they'll be out there with guns. They carry guns on their sides, and New Brighton police know this," end quote.
And apparently Todd was not licensed to carry a firearm or something like that as well, too.
Right. I'm not sure if Minnesota is an open carry state or not, but if it is, I mean, he doesn't have to have a license.
I just remember that was one of the things in the documentary I watched. They said that, and that was one thing, that Todd was not licensed to carry that
Got your
firearm.
phone? Look it up. See if Minnesota is an open carry state.
I will do that.
I'm curious. But Jacob's arrest was the last straw for the Zumbergs. When Paula saw Jennifer returning home, she told her husband that she was going to go outside and give Jennifer a piece of her mind. This is from Neil's interview with police. He says, next thing you know, they're swearing back and forth. He carries a gun and stuff, and they're screaming and yelling, and at some point during the argument, Todd came out of the house and stood next to Jennifer. And just as a little side note, this is when Neil goes and gets his shotgun and gets into position, okay?
And apparently, Michael, I did look it up. Minnesota is an open carry state, but
there
there
you
are
go.
some restrictions. Like you do apparently have to have a permit, like a valid permit to carry the gun that you want to carry or something like that. You have to, it says
Even openly?
a valid permit to carry is required to openly carry a handgun or long gun in Minnesota. So apparently
Okay.
he did not have a permit to open carry, but he did open carry. I think that's
Okay.
what they said in the documentary.
Okay, all right. So like I said, so Neil says Todd came out of the house and stood next to Jennifer. And I'm going to pause right here. And this is when Neil retrieved the shotgun. He went to the basement, climbed out through a window, and then peered around the corner of his house towards Todd and Jennifer. And camera footage even showed Neil peeking out from around the corner of his house 5 times. Okay? So
yeah. When you're peeking around the corner 5 times, it's noticeable.
Absolutely. He goes on to say, I was watching, making sure that they weren't going to shoot my wife or something. And it just happened. He had his arms like this, crossed. And then he kind of went down like this by his side. And I just mean fully automatic. It just kept on firing, end quote. Neil ended up firing 4 shots in quick succession, hitting Todd 3 times and hitting Jennifer once as she ran back into the house. Neil told investigators that he hoped Todd would be all right, but he also told them that he had done them a favor, stating that they should give me a medal here because the police were going over there all the time because of this domestic stuff. Just hopefully he's all right. I got a feeling he's not, end quote.
Yeah, and I just knowing where he says, like, it just fully automatic. It just kept firing. No, it wasn't. It was a shotgun that was semi-automatic. It's like, it was not a fully automatic shotgun.
Fully automatic.
Yeah, it's like, you kept pulling the trigger.
Semi-automatic,
it's like, you kept
That's what he meant.
I know, this is the fact, well, he tries to justify it, saying, well, it just kept firing. It's like, you kept pulling the trigger.
Yeah, it was years and years of built-up
tension.
it was not what it was. That's what kept firing that gun.
You didn't have some AA-12 automatic shotgun. You're out there just bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, he had enough. After the shots were fired, like I mentioned earlier, Paula dipped out. And according to Jennifer, Paula was far from shocked by what had happened. In fact, she said Paula was actively encouraging her husband to shoot them, screaming, "Shoot, shoot." Jennifer believes that Neil and Paula had planned the entire attack. And if so, Paula Zumberg was certainly an accomplice in premeditated murder. And in my opinion as well, if this can be proved. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Neil Zumberg was arrested and charged with attempted murder and first-degree murder, while his wife Paula was charged for aiding and abetting murder as well as assault. Now, after Jennifer was released from the hospital, she began making her case to the media. And it was only 3 months after the shootings, right in the middle of Paula's trial. But it really didn't help. Paula's case was decided by Ramsey County District Judge Leslie Merck. The trial was a short one. The state's case rested on basically 2 factors. The first one being that Paula called out to her husband, encouraging the shots as he fired, and the camera footage of the incident, which has no audio. But it does show Paula standing in place as a shotgun is fired at her back. She doesn't drop to the ground, and she doesn't run for cover.
That is very awkward. It's weird in the video to see that.
4 shotgun shots, and you don't even flinch?
4 shotguns from like 30 feet behind you shooting past you, and you see the people in front of you getting shot,
and you don't
you don't react.
Right.
You just stand there with your hands like on your hips.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that doesn't look good.
Yeah. And the state argued that. They argued that her response was unnatural. Unless, of course, she had anticipated the gunshots. And they argued that she knew exactly what her husband was doing. The defense, in contrast, argued that Jennifer lied on the witness stand and was acting out of vengeance, and pointed out that Jennifer had made no mention of Paula's behavior on the night of the shooting, but added those details to her account the following day.
Oh, you mean the day she was shot and her partner was killed in front of her?
You mean she didn't add it to her account when she was laying in the hospital bed bleeding from her gut?
Yeah, that day. Yeah.
It might have slipped her mind that day.
Yeah.
But now, Paula's DNA, let's get to the hard evidence here. Paula's DNA was not found on any of the shotgun shells or the gun itself. Only Neil's was. And even if she had yelled shoot, there's no proof that Neil could even hear her over the loud gunshots, nor was there any evidence that the state could produce, that is, showing that Paula knew any of this ahead of time. Now, as a result, Paula was acquitted of all charges and sent home. Only thing she did was 100 days in county jail. What do you think about that, Andy?
Like I said, when you watch that video, it's very suspicious.
But I mean, what does she deserve? I'm genuinely asking.
I will reserve my judgment for after we say what happens with Neil, and then I'll say what I think they both deserved.
Okay. Well, later that year, it was Neil's turn. The defense argued that Neil's actions were in self-defense, as they told the jury about threatening behavior by both neighbors to each other over the years, which included death threats. Witnesses testified to seeing gun gestures that Todd Stevens had made with his hand towards the Zumberg property. And Neil took the stand in his own defense. He testified that after he learned of the confrontation between his son Jacob and his neighbors at the restaurant, he then parked a block away from his house and entered through a window out of fear for his own safety. He then retrieved a 12-gauge shotgun from his basement and taught his wife Paula how to use it. Then he loaded the gun with 4 shells, buckshot, they had 8 pellets each, removed the trigger lock, and placed the gun under the living room couch, and apparently wiped it clean before he did so, because remember, none of Paula's DNA was found on the gun. If you taught her how to use it, maybe he just showed it to her. Maybe he gave her like a crash course, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just
she didn't
showed her.
actually go out and shoot it anywhere.
No, I don't think they ever said he did teach, like, take her out and shoot it. He does
Right.
say, I showed her how to use it, and I showed her where it was, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And on that fateful night, Neil was watching the confrontation through the living room window. And as the argument escalated, he grabbed the shotgun and snuck outside and posted up at the side of his house, roughly 145 feet away from where Paula was arguing with Todd and Jennifer. Now, you see, Neil had grown up with a deaf younger brother. And because of that, at an early age, he learned to read lips, Andy. And after using his apparent lip-reading skills, Neil testified that he saw Todd say something to the effect of, "I'm going to kill that bleepity bleep."
Expletive.
Yes.
I love that excuse too. It's like, well, I had a deaf brother, so I know how to read lips. It's like,
Right? It's
wait,
like, why
wouldn't
would you know? You can hear. Why would you need to know how to read
It's like,
lips?
now if you would have said I had a deaf brother, I know sign language.
That
yeah.
would make more sense.
But yet
Exactly.
your deaf brother probably knows how to read lips pretty well.
In addition, Neil said that he saw Todd reach for his belt, where he had known him to carry a gun. And in response, he raised his shotgun and fired. Neil testified that he did not intend to hurt Jennifer at all. And just to add more fuel to the fire, man, Todd Stevens was not even armed when Neil Zumberg shot and killed him.
Nope. He had his cell phone clip on his belt.
He was unarmed, standing in his own front yard.
And he says
So-
he didn't mean to shoot Jennifer. Well, you still shot 4 times of a 12-gauge shotgun.
Either way, man.
Yeah.
You're going. Yeah.
You're going to hit some people.
So jurors began their deliberations at 11 a.m. Following closing arguments, they returned to verdicts by 2 p.m. And it was a pretty easy one. They had lunch in there too. So
Yeah, they had a lunch break.
guilty on all 4 accounts. They could not reconcile how Neil had been able to see Todd clearly enough to read his lips, but you couldn't see him good enough to see that his cell phone wasn't a gun.
Right? Yeah.
Come on now. Now, it appeared from the camera footage that Todd had his arms crossed at the time that the gunshots were fired as well, and he never reached for anything.
I love how in the documentary that I watched, like one of the former jury members, or maybe it was an additional jury member or something,
Right.
talks about how it's like, yeah, we feel like a normal person too. If you were afraid that your wife was in danger or being threatened, it's like
Yeah.
you would come out the front door and yell to tell her to get back, to get away from my wife, you wouldn't go sneak out the back and post up. Like you say, you see him peek the corner 5 times.
Right.
That's
right.
where it starts to look like you're waiting for your moment to shoot.
Absolutely.
You're not watching just in case. You're looking for your opening.
Yep. But at his sentencing hearing, Neil had one more surprise for us. In a 20-minute speech, Neil spoke of the happy times that he had shared with his neighbors before the feud began and apologized to Jennifer and Todd's family. Quote, "I want Todd's family to know how deeply sorry I am for the pain that I've caused them. If I could trade places with Todd, I would. I'm sorry. Todd did not deserve to die." End quote.
Yeah. No, he did not. No, that
he
was a neighborhood argument that turned deadly.
Neil also claimed to have been coached by his lawyer to give false testimony. This is the real drop right here. He can't read lips, Andy. Oh my God.
Really?
What? And he did not genuinely believe that Todd was reaching for a gun when he opened fire. And as a result, Neil was given a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The judge handed him an additional 15 years for the attempted murder of Jennifer. Paula Zumberg sold the family home on Knollwood Drive to pay for Neil's legal expenses. And Paula later told a news outlet that the family should have moved away years earlier, because that's what Neil had wanted. But she concluded in saying that this could happen to anybody. I can't think of anything we could have done to change it.
Well, that right there, that statement right there is a little.
Well, you could have not shot somebody.
You could have, you could have moved away. You could have not planned a murder and shot somebody in their front yard.
Yep.
You could have not had your son. You could have not let your son threaten to kill somebody.
Right.
There's a lot of things you could have done. Moving away, probably number one.
Probably would have been the best thing.
But yeah, like I said, I reserved my judgment for her because when you watch that tape and then you see, especially after they did his trial, I feel like if they would have done his first, I feel like she would have been charged. I feel like she would have been found guilty.
Yep.
But the fact that they did hers first, I feel like she was able to get away with it because they didn't have that, oh yeah, look at him. It's very clearly he is planning this.
Right. And her defense knew this,
Yeah.
Her defense knew this. And maybe, his defense was coaching him to tell all these lies and all this bullshit up there about being able to read lips and seeing him reach for a gun and all that just to help delay the trial long enough. You know what I mean? Or just, I don't know, just keep adding more evidence and things like that in order to delay his trial enough for hers to be done.
Yeah, just throw enough doubt in there. Just keep throwing things out there to make the jury question enough things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like if her trial would have came second, I feel like she would have gone to prison for an accessory or, accessory to murder. Because the fact that when you see him peek that corner 5 times, he is looking very militaristic.
Yeah.
He's got a shotgun down like he's playing Call of Duty almost.
Right.
And he's peeking this corner repeatedly until he basically just comes out guns blazing and starts firing.
Yeah.
There is no, like you see on the camera, there's no like big aggressive movements by Todd. There's no like, getting up in Paula's face.
Arms crossed. Yeah.
Yeah. Arms crossed. He's standing there with his arms crossed. And like I said, you are looking for your moment. And it's just, you basically could not wait anymore. And you probably heard him say, one bad thing to your wife, and you were just like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, if that, dude. I think he already made the decision that day when he went home and snuck in his house and then put the gun under the couch. He'd already made the decision then. The next time I see that motherfucker, the next incident we have, I'm going to shoot him.
Yep.
I think he made that decision.
Or he just had that mentality that I'm expecting him to pull a gun on me, so I'm going to get him first.
Exactly.
That old West mentality or whatever, but
I guess so.
Yeah, I feel like she knew that, like the fact that her husband did not come out there like the jurors said, like you didn't come out the
we
front
haven't
door and
talked about
defend.
Paula scot-free, man.
Like I feel like the fact that her husband did not come out there and like defend like the juror said, you can very clearly tell that either she knew that he was back there with the gun waiting for something to happen, or that she may not know exactly what he was doing, but he had maybe told her to, you go out there and just keep them talking.
Right.
Like, yeah, when you see her not react to 4 shotgun blasts right behind her, that there's something there that you can just see that she knew those were coming. Something was coming.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she knew. They both knew it was coming to a head, and that was it, man.
And it was all over, just originally, all over deer. All over feeding some nice deer outside. Just giving them some corn.
Right.
Just so cute. Your fuzzy little deer out in the wilderness, just
Poor
smelling.
deer.
Just smelling like just pine and, just, I don't know, like, lemongrass and things.
Now that Todd's gone, nobody probably feels the feeder.
Probably not.
I mean, why would Jennifer even want to stay there? I know she said in one of the interviews at the end, she said, I don't even want to stay here. This is a house of death.
Yeah, doesn't feel like home anymore.
It's not home. It's not home. A horrible tragedy happened here with somebody she'd been there for almost 20 years with. Mm-hmm. You got to dip out after that. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's too late. But it's not too late for you to dip into some Oh My Gaia.
You can never dip into enough Oh My Gaia.
You cannot. They comes with a little dipping stick. It's so satisfying.
I know. It's like smell good fun
Oh
dip.
My Gaia out of there. Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while still maintaining effectiveness. And at Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients, guys. And there's tons of scents to choose from, like vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot, amber, pear, sweet pea, sailor, barbershop. We got our own scent called True Crime Pine. And just for this episode, we're bringing in deer piss. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. That's not a real thing.
Hunting season's
Don't
just around the corner,
hit up,
people.
oh my God, I want deer piss deodorant. But no, you can try our own True Crime Pine, though. It is for real. That actually does exist.
It do exist.
It do exist. True Crime Pine, and you can get it at ohmygaia.com, ohmygaia.com. And because you're True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the code word CREEPER for 15% off your order. CREEPER for 15% off at ohmygaia.com, ohmygaia.com. And of course, guys, links to everything that we plug here on TCG are right below the description of this episode, as well as sources and whatnot for this episode. Patreon, right?
Patreon's still there.
Patreon is still there, and it's still amazing. Patreon.com/TrueCrimeGuys. You guys can get access to these episodes early and ad-free, as well as our Patreon exclusive episode that we do every single month, as well as tons of a huge back catalog of audio files, hundreds of episodes waiting for you to listen throughout the TCG years. All right, that's at patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Also, give us a follow at social media at True Crime Guys. Also, make sure you give Cryptic Soup a follow at Cryptic Soup Pod. Check out the link right below the description of this episode. Cryptic Soup and Strange and Unexplained. More good podcast goodness for your ears. Right, Andy?
Absolutely, guys. And check out our YouTube channel. Please
Yes.
do that as well. Subscribe. Give us some likes. Give us some comments on there.
Yep. All right. I think that's pretty much it. I think that's everything, Andy.
I think so. And to get me some more. Oh my God, coming up soon, Michael.
Yeah, you do. You put another order in.
What flavor should I get? What should
What
I get,
flavor?
Michael?
Andy, stop eating it. God. All right, guys. Keep
It goes
creeping.
so fast.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.